Close to Home podcast. Real people, real life, real stories. Insight and inspiration from Close to Home brings a fresh perspective on home, business, and life. Join the professionals across real estate, construction, insurance, and financial lending to gain perspective not only from their individual professional experience, but also from their life stories. Well, good morning. How are we?
Good morning.
Doing well, Dan.
Good morning.
So today's topic, I'm glad you feel smart because we're going to be asking you all about inflation.
Oh,
We're going to be asking everybody about inflation. How has it affected day-to-day living as well as your profession?
Let's start with us, how it's affected us.
personally?
Yes,
Yeah.
like in our business.
Yeah.
In our business.
And then we can talk about all the nastiness at home.
Inflation sucks.
We just need that on a queue up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jim, fire it away. If you want to talk about the professional stuff, let's go.
Okay, about, when was it? I think everybody remembers we get this little 0.5% bump in rates. But in my industry, the rates went up almost 2%. You want to explain that one? That's a tough situation. And why did it have to go up so fast? That's going to puzzle me for quite some time. Rates do need to get where they're going. They did need to move up. Did they need to move up at that rate so as to not only slow down the economy, but basically seize it?
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, you know, the inventory problems that we're having, it's all kind of a big spiral, and it snowballed into something pretty fierce that's affected all of us. And we're waiting. We've got good news on the horizon as far as rates go, but none of it's come true. And as of this week, it looks like it's possible that they're going to continue to rise. Now, what are they going to do? None of us really know, and everybody's got their own view on it, and it's certainly something that can be debated, but nobody's going to know until they roll out. So
Yeah. And the rates obviously have affected my industry too in real estate because it decreases your buying power. If you're able to buy something at 2% as opposed to 7%, that's a pretty big difference.
when
Yeah,
you're
for
sitting
sure.
on a 2, 3,
Massive
4% rate, are you going to sit out there and look and see what's going to be done, or are you gonna jump on it? Now, each time somebody moves out or wants to upgrade or smart size, not downsize, smart size, they're
Clever.
going to create two transactions because now their home becomes part of the inventory and then wherever they're going. But right now we've got a slow outlook because everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen. And you got to be careful because if you wait too long, now you're going to be back in bidding wars. Now you're going to pay the higher rate and bid against people. So,
Right.
But we're still a little bit there. Like we're still seeing things taking higher price points, right?
yes.
And the higher rates.
Not as bad as what we were a year ago.
Oh, yes. No, absolutely.
A year ago, it was crazy.
Crazy. Yes. Multiple offers.
Oh, gosh.
Sometimes
up to-
100,000 over asking. Yes, I remember.
Right.
I remember.
How do you insure on that?
Yeah, that was interesting. For the longest time, I always had to tell people it's not purchase price, it's rebuild value. It's going to be more. And then the conversation switched and it's like, well, I know you're buying and paying more than what we're actually insuring, but in a way you're kind of overpaying, but they know that. And then for the loan amount, it was still satisfying that. So it wasn't an issue per se, but it definitely switched the conversation.
So all the money I pay up and above the contract price, the lender's not going to help me out with that. So that's cash out of pocket.
Right,
The
exactly.
insurance agent isn't going to cover that debt equity either.
Right. If it doesn't, sometimes sometimes the rebuild values match up.
Okay.
Especially with, and getting into Ashley's world here, but especially with where the costs of materials and labor have escalated to, which again is an inflation thing. So in most cases, there wasn't very often where the insurance wasn't quite covering the home value, but there were some few situations, maybe in high dirt value places.
Well, while we've got you on this topic here, tell us a little bit about what's going on in your market. You've heard me bark about the rates a little bit.
Well, and that's the same thing that we get on the insurance side, whether it's homeowners or auto insurance. It's, my gosh, why is my insurance going up so much? And it's like, well, everything's going up. I mean, it's like we just talked about, if there was a loss on your home, the rebuild values are double what they were, right? So, I mean, that has to be covered. And so, yeah, there's inflation and your inflation levels are a lot higher, which means that your dwelling has to be insured higher, which then raises the premium. And normally I suggest like, hey, let's shop your insurance every 3 to 5 years. No, we have to shop every year now because it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's
such a domino effect. It's like a cycle that could run around this entire table here in each of these industries, and just one of our industries affects the other, and it keeps going. Right. And then we add in just consumer economics at the end of the table here, and it's like.
So while everybody's getting these great algorithms, and getting scientific and just tearing this up, let's break it down into simple stuff here. What's the price of diesel? How much does it cost?
I don't even know. I don't look. That's really bad.
Name something around us that wasn't brought in by truck. Look around here. Even look outside. What wasn't brought in here by truck? Okay. So there you have it. Materials are up. Ashley, talk to us a little bit. What's going on in your world?
We've seen the price of in building material terms. A lot of times we talk about the cost of a 2x4, because in residential building, that is your big lumber count number that you're looking at, or your price of concrete if you're digging foundation or anything that would have to do with that. So all of those prices skyrocketed, especially when we went through COVID and all of the plants were shut down and we dealt with all of that. It went back down, but it's still nearly double what it was. So yes, it's back down, but we also forget that it's not back down at all if it's still nearly double what it was to begin with.
So I'm hearing
the price of a 2x4. What did it start out at pre-COVID? How much was it?
I believe it was roughly like $2.98. Like it was under $3 a board.
Okay.
And then it went up to nearly $9.
Oh my gosh.
So imagine building a home.
Right.
And your builder literally coming to you and saying, "Oh, I know we signed this, but we really can't build your home. Like, unless you go ahead and pay us an extra $30,000, $40,000.
I don't know how accurate this is, but I've also heard that the wood, since it's on such demand right now, is not being cured nearly as well as it was before. It's not sitting long enough.
Correct.
So they're not leaving it in the kiln as long? Is that what you're saying?
Just the quality is down. Really? Overall. I mean, we see it within some of our higher end premium lumbers to all the way to our, big box store lumber. It's not, the quality's not there. And we've even seen it with some of our finish materials as well. Cabinetry in a year, our personal cost price increased over 40%. And that's enormous. That's a huge increase for something that's already a big expense in a job to jump that much. We've seen tile increase, flooring increase. Doesn't matter if it's hardwood or if it's a laminate or a vinyl plank, all across the board. And then to stack on top of that, for there to be a labor shortage
I was going to
and
say,
a material shortage.
Has labor decreased in cost?
And then,
I don't think so.
And then labor, where we used to be able to pay a beginning laborer minimum wage, and now entry-level people with no experience are starting in our industry at $17, $18 an hour. That's insane. I mean, your build cost has skyrocketed, and there's nothing that the builder can do about it. Yeah. So for an individual that's not savvy to that industry, just know that a lot of these builders they're kind of got their hands tied behind their back dealing with some of these inflation situations. And that's just kind of what we're under right now. There is no building per square foot when you're building a custom home at this point. It's going to take more time to bid it. It's going to take more time to get lumber counts. It's going to take more time to get everything together. And our goal is to always put customer service at the forefront. So we continue to try to strive for that, while even though we're managing and dealing with the inflation scenarios as well.
All right, my job sounds a little easier. Dan, all you and I have to do is sell it.
Right.
These poor people, oh my gosh, they got a lot to do.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that goes into building a home or running a business, I would venture to say that very few people who own businesses are operating at a higher profit percentage level now than pre-COVID.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I know that profits on our side have not increased. The demand has increased, and the cost of labor and materials and everything else has increased, but our profits haven't increased. So when consumers see it, they think, oh my gosh, everybody's making so much money. Well, some people are, some people aren't. Some people are just getting by,
Yeah, I think a huge part of it too is I feel like a lot of us are having to educate our clients on the why behind everything.
Right.
It takes a lot more time, but I think they greatly appreciate that as well.
Absolutely,
And then eggs and milk and all that stuff goes up. You walk in the store and it's just right. It just is what it is.
Right.
And you feel like there should be some negotiating power with construction or insurance or loan rates or commissions on real estate, whatever the case may be.
Right.
It is looked at as something that can be negotiated, but oftentimes it isn't.
Sure. Yeah.
And when eggs are 3 times as much or, milk is up or whatever, we're feeling it everywhere, and it's,
right.
It's lack of inventory, and it's, lack of labor, like Ashley said. So, and that trickles into everything. Every single thing that we're purchasing and having to deal with. And
anybody who thinks that inflation is transitory or that we're going to come out of this, I think they've got their head in the sand. Everybody that I've talked to understands that. Why are prices so high? Well, inflation's here. It's the fact of life, and it is what it is. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Jim touched on it. I think inflation is healthy for any type of, it's healthy, right? But not at the levels at how quickly it happened and how drastic the percentages went up in such a short period of time.
Yeah. Too much of inflation, calling it a good thing, or
right.
For those that are watching, you saw my little air quotes, but those that are listening, too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
That goes for everything, though, right?
I'm going to contradict that. Too much of a good thing is absolutely wonderful.
Until the next morning, whenever you've got a hangover. Man, this whiskey's really good. So, okay, so how have we been able to combat that? Have we, I know that a lot of people have made lifestyle changes. I know that we have in our house, especially with the additions that we have, we've changed a little bit.
I'll spin the wheels if you want. I'm going to look at some of the good stuff. Okay. Because every time there's something bad, even when COVID hit, there was a lot of good stuff in there too.
Yeah,
okay. So what good is coming out of this? Well, the values of our homes haven't really fallen. We're able to hold on to that. Yes, we're paying a little bit more taxes now because the values are up higher, but that is part of our savings. You pay a little bit, you get that equity. Your home appreciates, you get that equity. These types of things are still happening, and the demand is still out there. If you did need to, or you wanted to sell your home right now, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Dan, you want to help out with that one?
Yeah. Getting a sale is not terribly difficult right now. You still need to, don't do it by yourself. You shouldn't probably represent yourself in court. You probably shouldn't do your own taxes. Don't leave your biggest asset up to chance. Still hire a competent professional who's able to negotiate the market and make sure that you're getting top dollar for your house. I like working with FSBOs. That's a good time to get my clients the best deal, because they decided that they were able to do it. Sometimes they are, and you know, an agent in my office was able to snag a FSBO at about $60,000 below market value for his client. So,
Nice.
you know, should that or you know, had that individual chosen to be represented by a competent individual, a competent professional, they would have probably netted another $60,000, but they didn't. So good for the buyer.
If you were to look at the situation right now and ignore the media, let's talk about us, our area, and whatnot. Okay. Is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market right now? I'm interested in your opinion.
So it's an interesting market. Sellers are still seeing less days on market. Buyers are still paying a premium. There was a little bit of time there where everybody, you know, as rates were climbing, it appeared that we were going to be shifting to more of a buyer's market. It hasn't happened, though. Inventory's too low for that to happen right now. And until homes are sitting on the market for, you know, 90, 120, 150 days, 180 days, it's not a buyer's market, you know, until there's enough inventory to satisfy the needs and then some. It's not a buyer's market. So
when was the last buyer's market? Because I remember we purchased our property in 2017 and our property had been on the market. We purchased it in June. Our closing date was in June. It had been on the market since September the previous year. And so, that was a very, to know that, like, that was the opportune time to have bought for us.
Yeah. The right time for you to buy is whenever you're ready. It's never, you know, why would you roll the dice and see what's going to happen? Because what happened the last time we did that? Last summer, rates were still down, and folks who said, "Oh, we're going to wait and see what happens." Well, you went from paying 3% to now you're paying, what are we paying now, Jim? 7.5% or something?
And climbing, who knows? Right. You know, I mean, so, it's different for everybody, but I would say, you know, tip top of the 6s, low 7s. Yeah. So,
Jim, you've also always got some really good insight about the balance of living life at that moment to its fullest. And you always say it in like the most eloquent way possible. and then also knowing that you're taking a little bit of a risk at the same time, but we're not certain of what the risk is tomorrow or next year either. So
we're going to segue into that on this first time. You guys are hitting some of the topics that I wanted to talk about, and that's exactly, you know, one of them. And, you know, the other thing you mentioned was, when is the right time? Well, the right time is when you're ready. You can't wait for that perfect storm, right, you know, where, you know, everything's going to go down and this and that. It's got to be for you. Right. And this is an interesting thing, but, you know, in the housing industry, you can afford to make a bad decision. You can, if you've done it right, you can afford to ride whatever the times are. It's still your home. It's still your family, or however, you know, you do whatever you do. But there's always going to be something there, you know, and it's as long as you're insured, I would think. But let's go back real briefly to how it's affected us individually. So I'm a Sam's Club shopper. I'm a hoarder. My kid makes fun of me because he opens a pantry. He goes, "Why do I even shop? I could come here." You know?
Hey, I think we've all been there in our younger years. Yeah. Shopping out of the parents' pantry.
Right.
So I buy the 7.5 dozen eggs.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's a regular staple at the house, and now the kid moved out.
Dan's hardcore judging you right now.
And you know, so here's the funny part. Yeah, exactly. The kid moved out. I mean, anyway, yeah, long and short, the puppy doesn't eat much eggs. But the thing is I bought a case for about $33, you know, and the very, very next day, they were $16 or $18. The very next day.
Oh, geez.
Have you guys been seeing this? And also with like dairy products and butter, I've seen it go from like $10 for a 4-pound, whatever. I know you guys don't shop like this, but I'm one of those that buys it. I'll throw it in the freezer, whatever it is. How do I say this? The whole thing with COVID really set me off when everybody bought up all the toilet paper.
Jim was sick and tired of not having TV
Are you kidding me?
Jim will never run out of eggs or toilet paper.
So whenever toilet paper was available, I buy one of those big, huge packs. And after a while, I was looking, I was like,
Jim doesn't need
I
toilet
can't
paper until
believe it.
2034.
Exactly.
So you're one of those guys.
Yeah, I haven't bought toilet paper in about probably 2 years. And my wife's like, there is something wrong with him. You know? But, you know, at home, so we're paying a little bit more. Now the gas is eased up, which, you know, but why hasn't diesel? I mean, it's
Very,
one.
very good question.
Yes.
It's one step less.
It's
In
still-
processing, it's so much easier to make the diesel.
Well, and still, like, there's a lot of things that go on to making gasoline. I understand that. But why was it $1.69? What year is it? 23. So yeah, 3 years ago. Why was it $1.69 or whatever? And now it's $3.25.
Very non-political.
Non-political statement might be the demise of the EV vehicles.
So we got gas. Okay. So then what was next? You know?
Yeah, the food,
Everything.
the staples,
The
just
food,
your household items.
everything.
I mean, now
Your electric, your
Full dis-
gas
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
your
full
utilities.
disclosure, when I go to the store, I have 2 little ones. I am there to like make sure that they stay next to me and we get in and out. So like I don't like individual prices. I have not really paid attention to, like I couldn't tell you how much a gallon of milk is. I just pick it up. When I get to the checkout, that's when I have my holy bleep, like how is it that expensive? But
Right.
at the same time, I'm still like in that mom mode. So like I said, I don't even know what fuel costs right now. So I feel like there's
lot.
it's a lot, right? And
But why look? I don't look
Right.
anymore. I just fill it
it
up
just
because you
is-
can't do anything
yeah, you
about
What
it.
am I going to do?
change
Go make
it.
my own gasoline? No,
Right.
it's-
No.
You have to
Yeah.
pay for it.
But
So-
but you know, well, and
But-
there
well-
you have it. Ashley is the busiest person in the world. She doesn't have time to look for this, let alone clip a coupon. You know, 2
but
kids in a company.
But I do shop at Aldi. So I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
if that, I
Oh,
mean, like I'm
we're-
not.
we're
Oh, it's the
hardcore.
forever sale.
Yeah.
We are hardcore Aldi, Sam's,
Yeah. Yeah.
Buy in
So-
bulk, get the cheap stuff. Like, yeah,
Folks,
no,
this is
we're-
not an Aldi plug, by the
No.
way.
Yeah,
For
this
sure
is not.
not.
There's no sponsorship at
Sense
all.
and sensibility.
However, if somebody from Aldi is listening and you would like to sponsor the show, we would gladly take free groceries for a year.
Absolutely. No, I think that's smart. I mean, we talk about seeing the positive thing or how we, you know, what small changes we all can make. And it can be. It's shifting where you're getting some of the same stuff. So
just even prioritizing.
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation that each one of us has with our clients already, but maybe each individual now is having to look at that in their everyday lives as
Yep.
well. What are your priorities? Do you enjoy eating out, or are you going to focus more on other things in your life?
I used to enjoy it.
Right.
yeah.
Well, you know what, guys? There's a lot of doom and gloom here, but like Jim said early on in the podcast, there's still some silver lining. You got, find it. Everything's not bad. The sky is not falling. The world is not ending. Like, this is just, it's every once in a while there's a rough patch. We move on, and the U.S. was still around after the Great Depression, and we haven't gone through that
Right.
yet. So,
And if anyone needs support that's listening in any one of these industries, or having a question about real estate or the loan process or insurance, or even thinking about adding onto your home or a renovation, if it's the right time for them, this is the perfect opportunity and group to reach out to for
Yeah.
those.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's our job is to help. So that's what we're here for. So, all right. Well, guys, gals,
Catch you next time.
see you later.